Hi, my name is Clarice, and this is a very dramatic way of saying that I just graduated high school. These past few weeks and months have honestly flown by so fast that I sort of feel like my graduation wasn't real. This year especially, because there weren't any extracurriculars or out-of-school activities, I put most of my time into studying, and I've learned over the years that even though it's nice to have good grades, it's not worth losing your sanity over, and you definitely shouldn't base your own worth over a number like that. Because in the end, what you remember about your high school experience are not really all of those assignments and essays you've worked on, but rather the people you've spent your time with. All of the teachers that you either love or hate, and the friends that you've grown up with are what makes this really memorable. High school is definitely nothing like the movies, but it was pretty neat and I'm gonna miss it. And sure, growing up is terrifying and pretty sad at first glance, but it's how life goes, and I cannot wait to see what this next chapter has to offer. Hi, so, yeah, hope you enjoyed that little montage. I had a lot of fun making it. But yeah, I have some notes, and I wanted to talk about, kind of my experience being an IB student, and just, kind of reflect on my overall high school experience, because I know a lot of you guys have questions and concerns about being an IB student and being in that program, because it is known to be kind of a lot of work. But I'm alive and I'm here to tell you guys how my experience went. So hopefully this can be helpful to some of you, or maybe I can just look back on this in future years and kind of laugh about high school. I don't know. I did try to make a whole sit down video and really plan out what I was gonna say, but me and sit down talking videos are not friends because I always end up overthinking everything. So yeah, that was just no bueno. So here I am. Let's just get right into it. So I'm expecting that most of you already know what the IB program is. If you're new to my channel, I've mentioned it a few times, but it's basically this school program that's known to be a little bit more academically challenging, and it's offered in schools around the world. I guess what sets it apart are really its values, because it focuses a lot on serving your community and becoming a lifelong learner, and that's kind of why I chose that program, because the values really aligned with mine. And still to this day, I think that program definitely helped me grow and become overall a better student, which I do appreciate. That is a benefit. The first and second year were probably the hardest for me, because I went from being a senior in primary school and having barely any work to do at home to having a lot of assignments and barely having any free time. Honestly, it was really rough. For I think I was 11. For an 11 or 12-year-old, it's a lot of work when you first start. I didn't really mention this, but I was in the MYP program, which is for kids from age 11 to 16. So just wanted to clarify that, because I did get a few questions talking about CAS project and stuff like that, and I didn't have to do that because that's not the same program. But yeah, like I was saying, the first year hit me hard. I honestly became a very stressed person. I mean, it's weird because you're still a kid. I was only 12, but you're expected to do a lot of work really naturally, and you get used to it pretty quickly because obviously you have to adapt. So a lot of people are scared about the workload when talking about the IB program, and I will say it's the most negative aspect, let's be honest. So yeah, everybody struggles with that, because you go from being like the top of your class or one of the people with the best average, and then you're put in a like place where everybody has the best average. I mean, obviously it's not an Ivy League school, like it's still, for me, it was still a public school, but everybody in that program like is very goal oriented, I want to say, or like most of us do like put a lot of value into like school and stuff like that. Also, like, it's not even that the IB program is like necessarily competitive. It really wasn't that competitive in my school, but I think it's just my own like personal mindset of always wanting to like perform and like be perfectionist, that kind of like messed with my head a little bit, especially during like my first few years. But I've learned that it doesn't matter if you're not always the best at everything. You're not going to be, and even if you are, like, good for you, but that's not gonna necessarily bring you satisfaction. I've kind of mentioned this, but I definitely am the kind of person that would base my worth off of my grades, especially in the beginning. I would spend literally every second of my free time in the library. Like, pretty much all of the pictures from my freshman year are me studying. I think I just turned that into a personality trait or something. There's a puppy. Il est bien beau.
Je m'excuse, je t'avais pas vu, sinon je l'aurais pas lancé vers...
I know like a really big concern that most people have when thinking of going into the IB program is the workload and like how many hours of homework and studying you have to do every day. The way like the workload goes, personally in my experience, in like a month you'll have 2 to 3 weeks that are really busy, and your nights will probably be like dedicated to studying, and then about like 1 or 2 weeks during the month you'll just be like sitting there wondering like what you should do because you probably won't have any assignments. At least that's how it like went for me. I think the schoolwork like comes in waves, and so it's nice to get like a 1 week break from time to time, but there's always something that you could be working on, and that is kind of like stressful if, like me, you're kind of a workaholic. As for like the amount of hours that I put into like homework and studying per day, I think it really depends, but normally it's at least 2 hours. And I would say the average for me, and this is like very personal because it depends from like person to person, but in my case I think it's 2 to 4 hours on average, and then if I have like an exam it can easily go up to like 5 to 7. Because let's say I get back home from school and like I'm the type of person that'll just work all evening until like I'm confident enough that I'm ready for the exam. So I mean, I definitely wouldn't recommend becoming an IB student if you're afraid of like working hard and afraid of like spending a lot of time studying, or if you don't enjoy learning. Like, it's okay if you don't necessarily have any goals or you don't really know what you want to study or like do for your job, but if having to work hard and study like really scares you, then maybe it's not the right program for you. Because for me, like, yes, it's scary, but I also enjoy that, weirdly enough. I just wanted to add that there is more to the IB program than just schoolwork and studying. I didn't really like mention anything other than that in the video, but there are like a lot of field trips that you go on and different activities, and also the projects that you do. You know, there is a lot of them, but they are like pretty fun and kind of different than your typical like high school project. So that is something that I didn't really mention and that I just quickly wanted to add. I also wanted to say that like throughout the 5 years that I was in the IB program, you are very stuck in your little IB bubble because like we all followed each other throughout the 5 years. The classes weren't really like that mixed, and you don't really meet that many people, which can be a good or bad thing. It depends on your personality. Obviously, if you're like really social and extroverted, then you can easily like make friends with people from different schools and programs. But personally, like, I just kind of stuck to my friend group and stuck to my class, and those are really the only people I knew throughout my 5 years. And in my experience, like, that's been good because we all kind of have the same values and we all like pretty goal oriented. Sometimes, like, obviously if there's a drama between your grade or between your friends, like, you're gonna be stuck with those people for a while, so you better work it out. Okay, next I wanted to talk about my personal project, which I did in my senior year, because that is like also a very big component to the IB program, or at least to the MYP program, which stands for like, I think, middle youth program or like project or something. Honestly, I didn't even know I was in the MYP program until like I did some research for this video, so bear with me. But yeah, the personal project, if you don't already know what it is, it's basically something that you have to complete in order to get your IB diploma. Someone is mowing their lawn, so I hope that's not too distracting. So yeah, the personal project, if you don't already know, it's basically, like the name says, a personal project. So you choose a project and a goal that you want to achieve, and you basically have to tie it to like the global context and the like IB learner profile and all of that IB vocabulary and those concepts. And then you'll basically work on that, I think, for about 6 months. It can, for some people, it can even take them a year if like you really start in advance, and depending on how big your project is. For example, in my case, I decided to make a documentary on film history and the careers in the film industry. That project honestly has definitely helped me kind of figure out what it like film is about and confirm my interest in that. So I think it's cool that you get to pick a project about literally any passion you might have. My number one tip is definitely to pick a subject that you are interested in, because you'll have to like do research on that and work on that topic for a really long time. So definitely take some time to choose the proper project. You can like change your mind, but just don't change it too many times, because at the end you do have to like pick something. I should put on sunscreen. Some other examples of personal projects that like people in my grade have done are like podcasts. I know somebody who did a podcast on like Indigenous history, I think. I've also had a friend who wrote an essay on like meditation. Somebody started like a jewelry line and donated the profits to a cancer like research organization. So you can really pick whatever cause and whatever like topic you're interested in, which I think is really neat. I was paired with a film teacher, and they'll usually like pair you with a teacher that's interested in your project and like that kind of knows something about that topic, or that's at least interested in it. My personal project definitely encouraged me to get out of my comfort zone, because I had to get in contact with people in the film industry, and like I knew nobody. So, you know, I did some Facebook posts, I texted people, I asked around, and I found people to interview. And yeah, I think the hardest part of my project was definitely editing, because I edited a whole pretty much an hour-long like documentary by myself, and I had to do that over Christmas break because I didn't really plan out like my time properly. Second tip would be to really like schedule your time properly and try your best to be organized and find ways to be organized. Another thing about the IB program is that you do have to put in a certain amount of hours like doing community service. In my case, I think the maximum was like 15, which is very little, and it's definitely very realistic if you consider that like you can put in those hours all throughout the year. For some people, that's getting involved in school committees or even in like organizations that they might not have known about before. So that's good, because I think it encourages us to like continue volunteering even once we graduate. And definitely, once again, is very like in line with my values, so I like that. If you're wondering if I will continue studying in the IB program for college, the answer is no, because the IB program is only offered, like where I live, it's only offered for environmental science students, which I don't plan on becoming. I'm gonna study in a cinema communications program, but you know, I think I'm okay with that. Like, I've had 5 years of IB, and they've been 5 very long and very difficult years, but I don't think I would be who I am today if it weren't for that. And if there's one thing that I take away from all of this, it's definitely the work ethic and the values that I like are ingrained in me now. Not that it sounds like the IB program is like brainwashing you. It's not. Just a little. Anyways, on that note, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed watching, and yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to comment them down below. I'm gonna go enjoy my summer now, so see you. Bye-bye. Or I cannot explain what's going down. I can see you standing next to me.